do you know that it's time for your underperforming team to tank? And what steps do you usually take? If you've decided now that it's going to tank, like, do you just fire sale everything? What do you do? Walk me through like the psychology, the practice. How do you transition your team from what was expected to be potentially a team competing to a team that no longer has interest in competing this year?
Well, I tend to break down my teams before they break down themselves. So I had a team this year actually that
Well, let's say, let's say that you actually had a pretty decent roster, but I don't know, say a couple things happen that contribute, right? Say you had Trey Lance, he's no longer a factor. So you went from thinking you had top 12 quarterback to now you're starting like, I don't know, uh, Ryan Tannehill every week. And then you had Javonte Williams, and now you definitely don't have Javonte Williams. I don't know. You had Allen Robinson, your starting lineup, and he's not doing anything for you. And all of a sudden you're looking at your team and you're like, man, this isn't really going to get it done.
Yeah. So in that case, then yeah, that's a pretty easy choice. There's no real, how do we know when we're breaking it down? We know because we're not scoring any friggin' points if those are our players. Very simple question. You just break down your team when you don't score points. That's the easy answer. So then how to break it down is very much a matter of, I just like to sell pretty much anything that I can. From a strategic standpoint, I like to punt everyone at a particular position, which is usually running back or quarterback. I'm not going to trade Josh Allen for nothing by any stretch, but at running back, it's like clear out the deck. We're going to start absolute duds that score 0 points so that we definitely are going to score 0 points as a team, and we're going to be fine. I try to move all of my value from quarterback, running back, tight end into the wide receiver room, young wide receivers, or even like veteran wide, like I don't know, depends on what age you call young, but like 26 or under wide receivers is usually what I try to get. So that's like guys like Deontay Johnson and DJ Moore and so on and so forth. The veterans that are undervalued because they're not producing at the rate that people would like them to, and then also the second year players that aren't doing what they need to be doing either, that we already are pretty sure are good. So like Rashad Bateman, Elijah Moore, and then I would be trying to get draft picks, all the draft picks. Give me every single draft pick. Draft picks don't score points, which helps me secure a higher draft choice. Like I said, we're punting all of the running backs. We're running out like literal backup running backs to start and literally scoring 0 points. With the quarterbacks, it really depends. I'm not going to trade like my superstar quarterbacks. I'm probably going to be fine scoring so few points because of the running back situation that it doesn't really matter if I score a little bit at quarterback. But if I have any like mid-tier quarterbacks, like they're gone. Like I'm not hanging on to Derek Carr or Kirk Cousins or Matt Stafford or those kind of guys. Like if I'm rebuilding, they're out the door. I'll go and buy some of these like unknowns, like a Zach Wilson or a Kenny Pickett or like Trey Lance. If you can buy an injured player, that's usually a pretty good idea. Because we get that automatic value bounce back in the offseason anyway. So yeah, that's kind of the plan.
I'm with you. I think the number one mistake that teams make when they're blowing up their team, hard to say what the number one is. There's so many, but one big one I think for me that people make is they are trying to envision what their eventual team will be. Right? I'll talk to people where it's like, okay, I'll sell Zeke. I'll even sell Devontae. I'm not selling DeAndre Swift. Like that's part of my future. It's like,
no, I'm selling DeAndre Swift.
Nobody is part of your future, right? Like if you are holding a player who is of high value, especially like a non-rookie player or non-second year player, or like really just any running back, you're not holding that player, right? You don't have to envision what your lineup will look like. Your eventual lineup is not your immediate concern. You should just be trying to soak value. You also have to think like every time that you have a high value player on your team and you're not trying to score points, you're putting the value of your team at immense risk. Like, look at what happened with Javonte Williams, right? He was holding all this value. He's no longer holding all that value. Trey Lance was holding all this value. He's no longer holding all that value. If you're rostering a Jamar Chase or a Justin Jefferson and you're rebuilding, I would even still move them because you're facing a lot of risk that catastrophic injury could strike and you could be losing perspective value. And the other issue is, if you're rebuilding, I'm assuming that your team is of low value in total, right? If your team is of high value, then you probably shouldn't be rebuilding, right? Like even if you've had a few injuries, you probably have so much value, either with your injured players, your picks, that maybe you can retool on the fly. But if you're a low value team, I don't want to store a high percentage of my roster value in a player whose value can't go up. Like Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson's value can't get any higher realistically. They're already first round startup picks, right? All I can do is stay the same or get lower, just functionally. So I would rather break those pieces down into a bunch of pieces that are generally good bets to accrue value, like first round picks and second round picks and young players that we've identified with good sophomore comps, et cetera, et cetera. And so that's definitely what I want to be focused on. I think there's like a Goldilocks that you have to find, a middle ground between being too picky in deals and being too easy. Like it's week 4, right? Going into week 5. If you aren't offered what you want right now, and you've talked to everyone and you feel like you can't get what you offered, you don't have to take the best offered deal immediately if the deal isn't good, right? I think sometimes people sell too early. There's going to be more injuries. There's going to be more bye weeks. There's going to be more desperation from other teams who maybe think they're in good shape now, but they're not as in good shape later. Yes, you have some risk carrying a player that might get injured, but if you're not able to find a satisfactory role now, you can play that all the way through. Right? You don't have to sell right away. However, I've also seen it be the other way, where teams are either too picky about just asking too much, and they end up like holding players on their team that they shouldn't hold, or more commonly, they're too picky about the kind of assets that they'll take in return. Like I've seen people say, "Oh, I only want 23 picks. I don't want to wait until 2024 because I want to compete in 2 years, and I can't have 24 rookies that are not going to be helpful that year." Or, "Oh, I don't really like that young player. I don't really like this guy." It doesn't matter. You're just assembling value, right? Like you're probably going to compete next year, probably if you're tearing down your team right now. Maybe you are, but it's plausible that you aren't. You should be allowed to pay the hold cost. You're at least not going to compete this year. So paying 1 year of hold cost on a 24 first or 25 first shouldn't hurt you at all. You're the team best positioned to do that. So you should be more than happy to take on future picks. Like, even if you never make that future pick, even if you trade for a 24 first now, and then you hold it for a year, and then you trade it at this time next year, because maybe you're competing a year earlier than you thought, you're still making profit on that pick because you're probably getting more buying power of that pick 12 months from now than you just got for it today. So even if you don't want to pick that player, it's fine. Take the 24 picks. And in terms of the young players, like just take the guys that the other people are willing to give you. Like if they want to give you some dude that you don't really like, that's fine. He's just a store of value. You're just putting him on the bench and hopefully things get better. Like you're just a trash collector. Just collect other people's trash and just try and figure it out later.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Like the whole point of rebuilding is just to amass this valuable team that you can then go and do whatever you want with. You don't have that's one of my biggest pet peeves is people are on Twitter being like, "Oh, how are you supposed to ever win? You just trade for draft picks." I'm like, well, there's such an easy thing. Like if you trade for players, you need to find somebody that wants that player. If you trade for a draft pick, find 10 owners in your league that don't want a draft pick. Like everybody wants a draft pick. It's like the easiest thing in the world to trade. But if you go and buy Rashad Bateman, there's a whole bunch of people that think Lamar Jackson's a running back and the Ravens are never going to pass. And there's like 4 potential buyers in your league. If you go and buy a first round pick, the whole league is interested in that come draft season next. I don't really understand why people think that if you trade for draft picks, your only option is to then use the draft pick or trade for more draft picks. It's like, no, like we're just amassing value in a way that is secure, that we're not going to be, putting our team at risk by rostering Rashad Bateman, who may never turn out. Who knows? If Rashad Bateman finishes the year really terrible, the value is gone. My 2023 first round pick isn't going to finish the year terrible because it's a freaking draft pick. There's no tangible production tied to this. They don't get injured. They don't disappoint. They're just a vessel of value, and it's wonderful.
Exactly. I could not agree more.
And then the 2024 thing that you mentioned, I think is great because a lot of times you do end up competing earlier than you expect to, especially if you buy like injured kind of like prime aged veterans. Right. They usually bounce back a lot better than what you bought them for. So now you're in your year 2 and you're like, oh man, like I have player X, Y, and Z and they're all doing great. Geez, my team is like middle of the pack and I'm sitting on 5 2024 firsts. I could probably make a lot of hay with 5 2024 firsts if I really want to just go out and compete right now. And you just go and buy whatever you want. And your team is now competing. And okay, well, yeah, we didn't have to wait 2 years to get the value out of those 2024 firsts because we just trade them now. And yeah, it just makes too much sense. And anybody who hates draft picks is doing it wrong.
Totally. We love draft picks. I mean, we kind of touched on this in the same conversation, but like, oh, sorry. Before I get into that, top guys that I want to add on every rebuilding team, other than draft picks, for me, I want Trey McBride on every rebuilding team.
Oh yeah,
and I also want Greg Dulcich on every rebuilding team. Basically, like any tight end with a decent enough profile that is not going to score points their first year, probably, but it's like almost a lock to a career. Greg Dulcich.
What?
Greg Dulcich. I want him on every rebuilding team. I'm not going to pay much, but I want Greg Dulcich, man.
Why do you want him?
Greg Dulcich has a phenomenal production profile. He was drafted in round 3, and his only meaningful competition that we thought he would have coming into the year just played 1 snap yesterday. And now he's going to be active off IR this week.
Oh, all right. Greg Dulcich isn't overly exciting to me, but he does have nice hair and a great mustache. So there is that.
Okay. Why isn't Greg Dulcich exciting to you?
I don't know. He's just kind of whatever. If you're going to buy a tight end that isn't going to score any points, go get yourself a Jelani Woods that's going to like get people excited.
Greg Dulcich is so much fucking better than Jelani Woods.
I don't care if he's better. Jelani Woods has a profile that is going to make people say, ooh la la, like they did with Albert Okwuegbunam, who didn't do anything. And Jelani's probably equal in impressiveness from a physical standpoint. And we do know that physical standpoint matters at the tight end position.
Right. But Greg Dulcich has adequate physical ability, 72nd percentile, 40-yard dash, 4.7, right on the line, 63rd percentile speed score, 69th percentile bear score. But what he has is production. 84th percentile college dominator, baby. Jelani Woods wishes he could have production like that.
Jelani Woods had a 94th percentile college dominator. What are you speaking of?
Jelani Woods' production profile is fraudulent trash, only based on touchdowns. He got like no yards for eternity. I'm going to pull up the screen share.
Hey, all right? You're the one who picked college dominator. I don't even use college dominator.
Yeah, because
Jelani Woods is better at it.
Because I was on playerprofiler.com and frankly, they don't have the stats that I actually like to use. And I didn't want to pull up Campus Ken, but now I have to pull up Campus Ken. So
who's the lead analyst on that website anyway?
Now they're going to be deleting the last minute of this. We're taking that out. We can't do that. But college dominator is a total trash stat. So.
Oh, it totally is.
This is the only thing that I had available. All right. We're going to pull up some receiving yards market share right here. We're going to do Jelani Woods. It sucks.
He didn't do anything until his last year. He had 598 yards in his last year, which was pretty good.
All right. Matt, we are now back. We're now back. Why does it say present? Present screen. What about screen share? What's present? Oh, well, let me screen share. That sucks. Anyhow, Greg, all right. Go get yourself Greg Dulcich. Don't get yourself Jelani Woods. Greg
Dulcich. Isn't it Jelani? I thought it was Jelani.
Mr. Woods. I don't know.
Jelani's a way cooler name.
I think it's Robert Woods.
If it's Jelani, I'm out. If it's Jelani, I'm in.
Okay. So, because it sounds like Jelani Walker.
Yeah. Exactly.
Okay. Jelani/Jelani. Let's call him Jelani. Sure. Jelani Woods has never even cracked a 15% receiving yards market share. Greg Dulcich, in his 3rd year out of high school, instead of Jelani Woods' 5th, was over a 30% receiving yards market share. It was over 25% as a senior in year 4 of high school. It's pretty good.
Yeah, and he's like a completely ordinary athlete. Completely ordinary.
I think adequate's a better word than ordinary. Sufficient,
Uh,
you might even say. Sufficient.
nah, he's pretty ordinary. What is his RAS? Oh, it's actually, you know what? His RAS is better than I thought it was. It's 8.25, but it still isn't in a category that is even remotely interesting.
So what you're saying is he has an adequate RAS. He has high-end college production. He has
You know
draft
that?
capital.
Do you want to know what Jelani Woods' RAS is?
Oh, it's 10.
Yeah, that's perfect. He has
Yeah,
a perfect
right.
RAS.
So
We're
what you're
talking
saying
about
is
a specimen.
I just want like you of all people are out here arguing for a non-productive player whose only thing is athleticism. I did not know that was your brand. I didn't know that
He
you
had a
were a big John
1.2
Ross.
yards per team pass attempt in his final year. The dude was efficient because he's a
1.2
freak.
yards per team pass attempt. That's not even good.
It's good enough.
No, it's not. The average of tight ends with a top 12 season is 1.8 in year 5. And in year 4, it'd be 1.5. He's never been anywhere close to the line. Greg
It's
Dulcich
good
had a
enough.
2.6 yards per team pass attempt in his third year of high school. That's over double Jelani Woods' best season because Greg Dulcich is significantly better than Jelani Woods.
Don't care because athleticism matters way more than market share of receiving yards at tight end.
Well, it's yards per team pass attempt. I picked your stat.
It doesn't matter. He's fine. He did enough. He doesn't need to be above average. He needs to be above a reasonable amount. And then he needs to have a 10, a perfect 10, a 10, a 10, fucking 10. Hit the 10.
You know who else you should go get at tight end? Chigoziem Okonkwo. That guy's hella athletic, and he had 3 targets and a touchdown on 5 routes yesterday. Look at that stud.
Didn't Jelani Woods just score like 2 touchdowns in one game on like 2 targets? Like
It's
2 days
true.
ago?
Yeah, he did. He
Dude,
did.
so good.
And then Mo Alley Cox got the 2 touchdowns this week. If the Colts could just pick one tight end, man, they'd have a good tight end.
And Jelani Woods even, I think he had like a 30-yard reception this week because he's a freak.
Yeah, I'll take Greg Dulcich. All right, we've gone way longer on these shitty tight ends. Point is, I want tight ends because they are an easy way to accrue some value. They don't score any points. Rookie tight ends. But Trey McBride is like a mandatory. He's like number 1 guy on every rebuilding team.
You need Trey McBride.
I want Calvin Ridley. I want Calvin Ridley on every rebuilding team.
Hold on. Let's talk more about Trey McBride because he's not just a rebuilding target. He's an every team target. The guy had a really, really strong profile. You need Trey McBride on every single team. Okay, carry on.
Yeah, you want Trey McBride. You want to offer for Trey McBride, but especially on a rebuilding team, he's like mandatory. Calvin Ridley, he's a mandatory player on any rebuilding team.
Yeah.
Trey Lance, I won't say is mandatory, but I'm definitely sending offers. Javonte Williams, sending offers. It's probably too late on Deshaun Watson, but like you still got to try. Like certainly, if you have an elite quarterback right now, and there's a team that's like 2-2 and they have Deshaun Watson, you definitely go to that team and you say, I'll give you my elite quarterback for your elite quarterback who's not going to play for another half of the season. And you give me something else. And then you get Deshaun Watson and the something else. And picks, like all picks, but especially like 24 and 25 picks are really high value. And then just like any rookie really is probably a good store of value. Anyone else jump out to mind immediately?
No, I mean, like any good young players that are promising, those are the guys you want. Anybody who's injured, anybody who's suspended, anybody who we know is coming back at some point. I like, so earlier I said, like, I'm not trading Josh Allen because elite quarterbacks are really hard to get. I would trade Josh Allen in some circumstances, like say if I could trade Josh Allen for Kyler Murray and more. Right. That would be very exciting to me because I'm tearing down, but yet not really tearing down.
Yeah. What if you could trade Josh Allen for Deshaun Watson in a 2023 first?
Yeah, I'd do that too, for sure.
Yeah,
absolutely. Like, yeah, I'm probably giving up a point or two per game, like in the long run, but a 2023 first gives your team just a whole lot of flexibility. And who knows, maybe you aren't giving up a point or two in the long run. You know, like Kyler Murray right now, we talked about him last week, but he still is averaging 21.2 points per game and has incredible. A 5.7 yards per attempt. His career average is like 7.3 or something like that. Like he's playing so bad and yet scoring all. He's doing what Baker Mayfield's doing, except he's scoring all the points as well.
Yeah, I called Kyler Murray Buckley's this week. Like he
Yeah.
tastes awful, but it works.
Yeah.
Like
It's great.
watching Kyler Murray is like I mean, just watching the Cardinals. I don't really want to put all the blame on Kyler. Just watching the Cardinals is an excruciating experience right now. Watching the Cardinals play the Panthers is like one of the worst experiences of my life. But Kyler is getting those fantasy points.